Hi, I'd like to talk to you about Native American student experiences and why a four-year degree. Now, if you look at these pictures of a wide range of people, and interestingly, if you look into the upper left-hand corner here, there's a woman there who graduated from the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania in 1889, and that is Susan LaFlèche. She's an Omaha tribe. So it's pretty amazing what Native Americans have done throughout their careers and throughout our time that we have been here. And it's good to recognize that. And one of the mechanisms that you can use to help push that knowledge about who we are and what you've done is obtaining a four-year degree. So let's just talk a little bit about that. Why do it? Okay. So give some background about myself. I think it's always fun to make fun of yourself. At least it is now, maybe not when I was younger, but one can say those things. And so if I were to say who is Cornelius, we all know there's a few of them that are pretty darn famous. Cornelius Bennett, he was famous, but of course, Buffalo Bills, but I was never very good at football, too small. And those that uh, like those old shows involving Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, etc. Then there's Yukon Cornelius, always looking for gold. Cornelius Vanderbilt, of course, a very famous guy and super rich, and that would have been nice to have him as a great great grandfather or something like that, and inherit some of that wealth. And then there's Don Cornelius with Soul Train and Pope Cornelius, and then of course up in the upper corner, which I hated when I was a kid, is Cornelius from Planet of the Apes. Never liked that one. But later on, it's kind of fun to think about that. Maybe I can be famous like him. So, why college? These are good questions. College can lead to so many different futures for you, and they can impact your family. The college that you go to can have a dramatic impact on what you may do in the future. I know that sounds odd, but it actually is true. And it can influence where you work and maybe what you may do in the future. But it's really important to consider. I've told my children and others that I've mentored and tried to help that college is a mechanism to allow you to create change in your life that can be substantial. For my own self, well, I'm not any of those famous Cornelius people. My path began as a simple grocery cashier. And my highest, for those that have heard my stories before, my highest aspiration at that particular point in my life was simply to be a produce manager. And with two children, that was something that I wanted, and it was being withheld from me uh, due to my particular race and where I was from. But I did realize through parents and through others that were within my mom's family about the importance of education. My grandfather really talked quite a bit about it, even though he himself did never basically just finished high school, but talked about how important it was. And so I realized that that was one thing that would allow you to overcome any barrier that you may have. It places you on the same playing field. So I made the decision as that grocery cashier person to enlist in the Army to be able to get money for college. Once I had money for college, I went to college and ended up finishing with a degree in chemical engineering, which was dramatically different than being a grocery cashier who only wanted to be a produce manager. So that transformed not only my life but my family's life and those that were around me, and my ability to influence them. So college can be dramatic. It can dramatically change things, and this is why it's so important. It allows you to realize things that you may not even know about yourself. Right? This is just who would have guessed, that I would be a professor in chemical engineering teaching others. If you asked that question of someone 30 plus years ago, and of course now I just told you my age, then they would never have believed what you had been telling them, that this person would be involved in doing these things for others. But this is what, why college can be so substantial for someone. So as I said, my path has been very non-traditional in all ways. Most people will finish their high school and go off to college and find their significant other, get married and live a life, and etc. But my path started, as I just told you, doing it not in the most traditional way at all. So you can kind of see some pictures along the way, in the upper left-hand corner. That's actually when I was in graduate school with my family. My wife, of course, is taking the pictures. That's why you can't see her. But quit a job at 3M to be able to go and go get my PhD. And of course, there's a picture of me, that a rock I made when I was in the Army. I was in the Army Reserve, and this is one of our station areas that was in Texas, and so everyone had to chisel some emblem of who they represented. So I made one for our unit, for our station hospital in Montana. There's a picture of my father, who was very proud that I had finished my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering at Montana State. And along the way, I worked for Dow Chemical and 3M, working with filtration devices, before I was inspired to go and get my PhD. And just like being a grocery cashier, when I was working at 3M, for me to work in the area that I wanted to, I quickly found out that the only way to do that was I had to get a PhD. And that was a requirement for some of the work that I wished to do when I worked for 3M. And that was actually told to me by managers, that they wanted this level of experience. And even though I felt that that it was not necessary, but anyhow, so I went and got that degree. So I did that and finished that. And of course, once you do something like that, it even changes your life further along the way within that path. So that path that changed because of that simple desire to be able to work on. So if I go backwards here, all I really wanted when I was at 3M was I wanted to work in the adhesive polymer area. And I was told that, I didn't have a PhD, and I didn't have experience in this area. And because of that reason, that's why I left. And actually, I went off to go to Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech at that particular time was one of the top 3 polymer schools in the nation. And I chose it because I wanted to be able to learn as much as I could about polymers and polymer science. And so I went there, and it was a wonderful experience. In fact, I'd say, graduate school is so much different than undergrad in terms of experiences. But it welcomed me as a non-traditional student there, and beautiful experience for myself and my family that when we lived there. But it opened the door to something totally different that I had never even thought about. I was thinking industry, but in the end, what happened was I ended up working for a national lab. And I didn't even know what a national laboratory was. But working in a national laboratory exposed me to so many different scientists and people that I had never met before, in different parts of, not only in the US, but throughout the world. And so if you look at some of these pictures, I just picked some of them randomly, but in the upper left-hand corner, this is a Praxair Pneumotech Sandia oxygen generator project that I created, and it's based on all my science that I had developed. And it was with Russians. And so I actually had Russian scientists working in my lab for multiple years. Um, Although it was great. It was a great experience, but it was based on separation science that I had learned while I was a PhD student. I learned some more things along there, and solved a problem for them. If you look over in the right-hand corner, these are some scientists from Sharp Corporation in Japan, and they also worked with me in my lab. And here's a couple pictures of some of the scientists at Sandia that were involved in my work, and some managers. But worked with them for multiple years, and that was great. It was great to have that experience. I went to Osaka, so it was a amazing experience to have them working with me. We were trying to compete against Toshiba to create a product for portable power generation using methanol fuel cells. And of course, here's myself and a postdocs working on 2 different areas: hydrogen fuel cells and electrodialysis to desalinate water. So we did lots of different things. So my background has been very broad, as you can guess. This non-traditional student who worked for 3M and Dow Chemical, became a staff scientist at Sandia, became a director of the largest institute at Virginia Tech, which was known as the Institute for Critical Technology and Applied Science. Became a faculty member both at UConn and UNL, and has been involved in multiple things. I've written many papers, worked on multiple areas, collaborated with many different people with an emphasis on materials, water, and energy. But those experiences were only possible due to an interaction and a decision to go off and pursue a degree and work in this area. And I would say that the barrier of being a non-traditional student did not stop me from doing these things. And the only thing that would stop someone, I believe, would be, your your fear of doing something that you have never done before. But that's what makes life exciting, is when you do those things, it lets you do many different things if you're willing to step out just a little bit. So I'm hoping that with my discussion with you, that you will see that you have potential to step beyond where you are and be more than just simply find out what you're truly capable of doing. That's really what it's all about. So, why college? Um, it allows you to do, I hope you've seen through this little short talk that we're doing here, it allows you to do many things, whether it's the medical field, an engineer, a person in literature. It does have challenges. There are always challenges with anything that you do, right? I mean, any decision that you do make, there will be challenges that come along with that. But challenges allow us to grow, right? Just as a child, the first time you ever rode a bike, if you've ridden a bike, you couldn't do it the first time you did it, and it was challenging, right? And it came along with a little bit of pain when you crashed a few times, but through that experience, though, you became able to do that. Or perhaps the first time you drove a car, or perhaps the first time you uh, played basketball, if that was a thing that you did, which I was not very good at, but I did play it. But there are this many challenges that are ahead of you. But if you're brave enough to step out from that, then there's tremendous success that's ahead of you. And so that's what I'd like to leave you with, those thoughts right there. Now, success for you is just a little bit ahead of you. And the number of different successful things that you do in your future is entirely up to you. All you need to do is just make the step and go forward with it. Be the person that when someone says to you, you can't be a produce manager, that you're willing to take another step and go beyond that and say, well, I want to be more. I know I can be more than that. And that's what you want to be able to do. So there's other reasons why to do this as well. Obtaining a Y college, there's a big difference in what you make salary wise. And I know sometimes, I mean, my children even said the same thing, that money doesn't really matter. But now that they're older, they go, yeah, I guess it does matter. And because of that, you can see there can be a very broad range in salary. And so if you go off and get a degree, the ability to earn money, which means, buying a house, buying a car, paying for your bills, paying for your medicals, can be pretty big. So if you don't finish high school, you'll probably only make, if you're fortunate, maybe about $30,000 a year. You finish high school, maybe you make 40. I would say it's less than that, but these are just averages done in 2012 and different population surveys. And so these are experiences that someone's been doing this for some time. Pursuing this degree or pursuing their field for some time before they do that. If you have some college, you make a little bit more money. If you're an occupational program area or career program, you can also have a little more success in salary, around $50,000. You get your bachelor's degree, your earning potential grows pretty dramatically. And that's what the whole point is. It's not so much making money, but it's also about having a life and allowing you to make change for all those around you, as well as for yourself and those that you bring into your sphere of life. So this is why it's so important, I believe, for you to go to college, to have a voice, but also to have a life that is something that you want, right? Brings joy to you. So a 4-year college degree. Of course, people always ask why. So here's your little cartoon for this. Why should I go to college? So you can get a degree. I've heard this before. Why? So you can get a good job. Why? So you can make money. Why? So you can pay back your college loans. Now, the beautiful thing about this is there's some truth to this cartoon. But also, what's also not really stated here is there's lots of opportunities to help pay for college. So, being an Indigenous person, there are scholarships that are available to you to help you finish school, to minimize or sometimes walk away with paying almost nothing for school. So when I was an undergrad, I received several scholarships and state scholarships and fellowships along the way once I started doing academically well to help fund the majority of my college degree. And as a consequence of that, when I went off to graduate school, which is also a great thing, graduate school in a STEM degree pays for all schooling. So that means if you go, everything's paid for. The classes are paid for, you're getting a stipend. It's not making tons of money, but it's making enough so that you can survive and finish such that you don't have to borrow any money along the way while you're working on that degree. And that's a great thing to do, right? To be able to finish a degree without owing a whole bunch of money along the way. Okay, so when we think about things like this, I like to kind of give comparisons about where we are in life and what that might mean, um, and where you can change and who you possibly could be. Billy Mills is kind of an example of that. If you think about him, he was somebody that had gone to Haskell. Actually, my father and mother knew who he was and went to school with him. But he went to Haskell and as an orphan. He was basically raised there. And later he entered the University of Kansas based on his ability to run, right? And he was an incredible runner. And he was able to be invited to be in the Olympic team to run for the USA. He was not the favored person to win at all. In fact, they just needed him to play or to be a part of it. And so he was never expected to do this. But when he was in that environment, given the chance, right? He did something amazing that had not been seen before. He bested his time that he had run by almost 30 seconds and winning an Olympic medal. And I think it would have been amazing to be able to be there and see this at that point in time. Of course, I wasn't alive then, but but it would have been amazing to see. And this is just what one could do. And of course, here's Billy Mills winning. Here's Billy Mills right here. Just an amazing story, I think. And it just talks about who we are. And sometimes when you go to college, some people will say that you may lose your culture along the way. And I'd say you don't, right? You enhance it. You appreciate that our world is a very broad one that includes many different things, and being exposed to other cultures and other beliefs and other people and what they believe actually strengthens who you are as a person, in my humble opinion. But culture, we talk about values, beliefs, customs, languages, and traditions, and it's a reflection of the group's history, heritage, and manner of expressing ideas. So your ability to express your ideas is based on what you've been exposed to. And if you're, as myself, you would find that if you could go back in time and meet me when I was younger, you'd find that I was very timid and very shy. But today, because of all the things that I've been exposed to, I have no issues being able to share who I am and what I do. And as a consequence of that, I believe you can help others because of that. And within culture, it also provides a sense of belonging and personal and cognitive growth and the ability to emphasize and relate to one another. And these are really important things. And some of the direct benefits of culture is, it has a grounding that has a way to help you with your health and wellness as a person, right? And self-esteem and skills development, social and capital and economic development. But it's an important aspect of who we are. And I would only state that when you come into college, if this is the decision that you do choose, you know, don't be afraid and think that you're going to lose who you are. I would simply say that you grow and you become a much stronger person than where you were today. And those foundational things that have been built into you and through your parents and through your siblings and through your elders, these are not lost. They only become stronger, right? And as a consequence of that, you can bring back something and help them be more successful in life. And this is what it's all about. So when I look at culture and I think about people, I like this little thing that I put together because this reminds me of people. And when we look at these seeds, the seeds themselves, we're not quite certain sometimes what they may become and what they could do. And if you look at them, some of them you can recognize right away, like corn. Yeah, I know that one, where it belongs to. But which one belongs to the redwood forest tree? What seed does that belong to? Which one is the apple? Which one is the pineapple that takes almost 2 years to mature before you can eat it? Or, which one is the pear? You know, so when I look at someone, I say, we are not really certain of what you could possibly become. But if we give you the right environment, we create relationships for you to interact with, then the potential of what you could become or what you could fully become and what's already in you, maybe through this experiences, these things will help those things develop. And along the way, I'd say, I always like this relationships and environment. When I think of the Sneetches, right? Um, Dr. Seuss book. And, sometimes we feel that we don't belong because we don't look like someone, or we don't have the same experiences, or we never grew up like they did. But I would simply say that, we as a person and we as a people shouldn't feel like that, right? I mean, I know myself, I felt like I never belonged. I remember when I decided to go to graduate school, I was very insecure. And I remember this one professor telling me when I was at Montana State, he had worked in industry first before he went back to academia, and he liked academic life. That was why he left it. And he said to me, Chris, you're not Swiss cheese. You have a lot of potential. That's basically what he was saying. That is more to you than simply what you think. And so when you're in these environments and you feel that you're not worthy, or you're not prepared as well as someone else, I'd simply say again, these are who you are and who you may become. And what you need to do is be okay and realize that it's okay not to look like someone or not to have the same life that they had, because there's so much more than simply having a star on your belly. So I think this is where we end. Sitting Bull said, uh, you know, he has a statement, and maybe you've heard this before, but he said something along the lines of, let us put our minds together to see what we can build for our children. And some of this comes through our experiences in education. And those educational experiences give you strength and give you abilities and give you tools that you did not have before, that can allow you to make changes so you can make impact on not only your community, but on your own children and your own lives. And that is truly an important area for you. So with that, let me just kind of finish and say, success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. Keep trying. That's a statement that one could say. That education creates equality for us. It creates freedom, establishes respect, can create protection for you in multiple different ways. And the only thing you need to do is just start your journey. And I hope that you saw through what I showed you that it's a wonderful thing to start, and don't be afraid. Just because you don't have a star in your belly doesn't mean you can't do this. I know you can. If I can do it, I know you can do it as well. Your being here and listening to this tells me enough that you have that potential, and I'd love to see that journey as well. So I'm going to stop there, and I'll simply say to you that if you need to reach out to us, You can go back and visit with MATC website, and my email is there, as well as my phone number and others that you can contact along the way. So with that, I'd like to stop and thank you again for joining this meeting.